Hello friends, and welcome to the 11th episode of Dulcius Ex Asperis. For anyone who's new to this channel, I'll go over some good news, some not so good news, and then talk about some good deeds you can do. My goal here is not to overwhelm you, not to look too far ahead. Just think about this next step, this next choice that you and I can make. Today, we'll liberate ourselves from some misunderstandings about tariffs, check in on how Trump is strong-arming TikTok, and then rewrite a scene from a Marvel movie. As always, you'll find a new song on the playlist and some inspiration for good deeds near the end. The good news this week came out of Wisconsin. Despite spending $25 million and committing some legally dubious acts, Musk's candidate in the Supreme Court election race lost by 10 points. Among the many, many things at stake in this election were the legislative maps that had given Republicans an advantage for at least 10 years. President Trump claimed April 2nd would be Liberation Day. Ahead of April 2nd, there were still some businesses and congressional leaders hoping the damage would be minimal. Instead, everyone's worst fears were confirmed. Stock markets experienced their worst drop in years. The Dow fell 4%, the S&P 500 fell nearly 5%, and the Nasdaq nearly 6%. If Trump is merely trying to even the scales, as he claims, why is the market reacting so harshly? International trade isn't the easiest topic to summarize. Since I'm not an accountant and I'm not an economist, I won't even try to explain all of the problems with Trump's economic plans. But here's a good summary. First, the reciprocal tariffs levied against each country aren't reciprocal. They're not based on legal trade barriers that national governments control. The tariffs are based on the purchasing decisions of individual consumers. Say I buy $10 worth of products from my favorite Canadian shop, and the person who runs that shop buys $5 worth of products from me. That's a $5 trade surplus in Canada's favor, based on individual citizens making decisions about where they want to spend their money. As the Atlantic article notes, even countries that want to negotiate with the United States can't control this lever. A government can't control the trade surplus with another country unless they're going to dictate every individual citizen's purchasing decisions. Predictably, Trump's newest tariffs have generated surges in anti-American sentiment, even in countries that have traditionally been our allies. You might not care if someone in Canada says mean things about you, but what it means is the Canadian government has fewer reasons to work with us. Why would a Canadian politician spend political capital to make concessions to the United States government when there is very little upside for them? Especially with all the uncertainty in Trump's announcements. This is why the markets dropped so precipitously Wednesday. Chaos and uncertainty are bad for elected leaders trying to manage economies, and they're bad for business too. If economists and business leaders, and even some Republican leaders, have been telling Trump that his tariff plans were a bad idea, why would Trump follow through? What does he have to gain? Trump is good at using this chaos and uncertainty to his advantage. Remember a couple episodes ago where we talked about TikTok's performative, unnecessary shutdown? Trump created the conditions that put TikTok in jeopardy. Then he stayed TikTok's execution, but left them dependent on his goodwill. And now he's using the leverage to pressure TikTok to accept a deal. This is corruption. Plain and simple. But it's corruption we can recover from. Lately, I've been getting a lot of inspiration from Andrea Pritzer's work. You can listen to Next Comes What as a podcast, or watch it on YouTube, or read her newsletter. Does anybody remember this scene from the Avengers movie in 2012? Loki is terrorizing the crowd and destroying whole police cars with a flick of his wrist. He orders the crowd to kneel, and one man refuses to stay down. he stands up and says, "Not to men like you." Loki responds, "There are no men like me." And then the old German man says, "There are always men like you." That line still gives me the shivers. Then Captain America shows up and saves the old German man from incineration. And while the heroics make for a good movie, I'm not sure how useful the message is, especially right now. History tells us a different story. Recently, the South Korean Supreme Court stepped in to support democracy. South Korea's president, Mr. Yoon, had tried to use the military as a political tool. But it wasn't just the Supreme Court that helped. It was citizens, too. Andrea Pritzer's podcast draws lessons from recent and not-so-recent history to illustrate how nonviolent civic protests drive change. We are resilient if we work together. Take this example of the Proud Boys coming to Tesla's defense at the Tesla takedown protests. People weren't scared away, and in the end, there were 50 pro-Musk supporters to the 1,000 anti-Musk Tesla takedown protesters. We are resilient if we work together. If you're thinking there's no reason to try because nothing you can do will make a difference, consider this. It doesn't take that many people speaking up to push change. And if you're a natural-born citizen of the United States, you're in the best position to speak up right now. ICE is targeting protesters who have green cards or student visas. The executive branch is actively trying to shut down dissent by going after protesters, law firms representing his opponents, and judges who have stymied executive branch policies. Let's rewrite this scene. There are no superheroes. There are no supervillains. Reality is simpler than that. There is a long history of leaders, the world over, who think they do not need to answer to their citizens or to just laws. Our individual actions add up to collective power if we do something. My challenge to you is this. Tomorrow, do something for your community, your neighborhood, your democracy. If you need some inspiration, check out Timothy Snyder's work, 20 Lessons for Fighting Tyranny, or Andrea Pritzer's podcast, or watch some past episodes of this channel. For my part, I'll be at my local hands-off protest tomorrow. Your version of civic protest might look different than mine, and that's okay. That's pretty great, actually. We need everyone's skills and perspectives. Democracy is a team sport. Until next time, friends, take care of each other.